Hello and welcome back to our Batman the Animated Series episodes commentary. And today's episode, it's the beginning of the third season of the show, The Shadow of the Bat. A very, very interesting episode because it features the beginnings of none other than Batgirl into this show. And by the way, it's a two-parter episode. So we're gonna watch the part one now. So, as usual, let's do our countdown so we can watch this episode together, okay? If you are watching your DVD box sets or Blu-ray box sets or streaming service with Batman the Animated Series, let's go in 3, 2, 1, give it a play. And the Warner Bros. Logo is on the screen. So yes, the Shadow of the Bat, which is the beginnings of Batgirl. I mean, she already showed up in this in the series 2 times in different episodes, just as Barbara Gordon, actually. And now she finally gonna have her start as the vigilante and partner of our dynamic duo that we know. And I think this is a great episode because it's very well crafted. The way her origin is told is really, really good. It's really, I guess, faithful to the comics, but at the same time, is also very solid for the character that was already established in the show. Like I said, she was in 2 different episodes before. She was in Heart of Steel, right? And she was also in let me see. I have to remember now. I forgot the other episode. But anyway, she already appeared twice here in the show, and is interesting because these 2 episodes already established her relation with her father, Jim Gordon, and now and the whole dynamic of her love for her father and her willingness to help him, even in police matters, which is something that she does in those 2 appearances. And now she will take the mantle of the bat for herself in order to help in the justice of this city, right? So the episode starts with some criminals in a warehouse, and they are probably stealing something, and their leader here is Rupert Thorne. So one more appearance of our great gangster of the show here in the series. So the police surrounds the warehouse, right? And there is a beat where the cops enter the place. By the way, a very cool entrance with a police armored car just knocking down a door and entering the warehouse while the criminals shoot against it. And this shootout starts. And Rupert Thorne uses this chance to escape. You know, he leaves his men to the police as a distraction for him to escape. And when he gets to the top of the warehouse, we're going to see the Batman showing up. He cannot escape Batman, of course. By the way, Rupert Thorne shows up so much in this show. He should be already in prison and facing many years, right, in prison, if we take the whole continuity of the show into consideration. But here we are again. So we have this chase between Batman and Thorne in the rooftop of the warehouse. The police is able to get to the roof as well. And this is where we meet this guy named Gil that is following Gordon and his men in the beat. And they find Rupert Thorne hanging upside down by ropes. He was caught by the Batman. And this guy, Gil Mason, he is senior police officer that is helping Gordon to end the criminality in the city. And he's a new character, right, in this episode. And obviously, someone who is a new character in the show working for the police is probably not a good guy, right? Without giving too many spoilers, we know that he's a crook. But for now, he seems to be a good guy, and he pretends to help the police with the things. We already know that Rupert Thorne's gang had an informer, somebody who told Thorne to escape the warehouse in the right time. And if it wasn't for the bat, Thorne would have escaped the beatdown of the police. So we know that there is an informer inside the police telling Thorne this information. And of course, we know that this is the guy, Gil Mason. And then we move to a scene where we see Barbara Gordon. She seems to be a teenager yet, but somehow Jim Gordon and her are talking. She's doing some gymnastics, showing her acrobatic skills. And they are talking about something that Gil Mason is interested in her. And he's very fond of her. And they even talk about proposing. I mean, Gil Mason proposing Barbara. I mean, I think she was supposed to be a teenager in the show. I don't really understand this guy, Mason. He seems to be an adult. It's a very weird conversation they have. And apparently Gordon is approving their romantic relationship. But anyway, this doesn't last long because Gil Mason shows up in the house of Gordon with two cops, and he takes him under arrest, takes Gordon under arrest, under the suspicion that he was the informer of Rupert Thorne and his gang. So Gordon is taken under arrest, and Barbara gets very unhappy with this. So apparently her infatuation for Gil Mason is already over. So she gets helpless, right? Barbara gets helpless. She doesn't know what to do. And this is going to take the whole plot to the point where Barbara will have to take matters into her own hands to prove her father's innocence. At the same time, we see Bruce also reading the newspaper, and he, of course, doesn't buy the whole accusation against Gordon. We see a scene with Barbara and this woman. I forget the name of this woman. You will see her. She is wearing glasses and a blue suit. And she's a character that will be very important in another episode of this season here called Trial. And this is my favorite episode of the whole show. If you know which episode I'm talking about, it's an episode where we see Batman trapped inside the Arkham Asylum with all the villains judging him for his apparent crimes against them. It's my favorite episode of the whole show. I cannot wait to get to these episodes and make a commentary. But anyway, Gil Mason shows up again, and now he's again pretending to be a nice guy and telling Barbara that he will work to try release Gordon from prison. And Barbara has this idea that if there's going to be this, how is the name now? Gil Mason is going to make this speech for the people of Gotham, apparently defending Gordon. And Barbara has this idea that if Batman shows up at the speech and creates this commotion in the people, showing that he also defends Gordon, people will fight to get her father out of prison. And she's going to try to convince Batman that he needs to appear in the speech. And of course, Batman is not a a showman, and he doesn't approve these kind of things. So he will refuse, which will lead Barbara to think, okay, if he's not gonna do it, I'm gonna do it for him, or I'm gonna pretend I'm Batman to create this idea. Uh, so we see Batman talking with Gordon in the prison. This is a very cool scene where he finds a way to communicate with Gordon inside his jail cell. He uses this transmitter in the wall of the building, and he's able to communicate with Gordon using a headphone. Very cool scene. And he already gathers some evidences that someone is behind the whole plot, but it's not Gordon, of course. So then we have the conversation with Barbara and Batman, where she tries to convince him of doing that. He obviously tells her that she should keep herself out of this whole thing and not interfere. But of course, she is a real woman, right? She will take matters into her own hands. And this is something that I really love about this character of Batgirl in this show, because she is a very important figure in the Bat family, not only in any other story, any other media, but we also, here in this show, she is very important to the trio, Batman, Robin, and Batgirl. She's a very important member, and she's very, with time, she gets more and more importance in the trio. When we get to season 4, she's already a full member of the team, including knowing the real identity of Batman and working with him in basically every mission. And then we're gonna have this bullshit thing that in the future seasons there's going to be an, how can I say, an indication that she and Batman have also a romantic relationship, which is always bullshit for me. I always thought, Batman and Batgirl should not be romantically involved in any way. And if you watched that terrible movie, the Killing Joke, that was released some years ago, there is this very traumatic scene for me where both have this relation that I will not mention because it's just totally bullshit for me. And I always like Batgirl as this almost sister or daughter, relationship with Batman, and and nothing else. And the problem with this whole thing is all from the pervert's minds of Bruce Timm. He's the problem behind this whole Batman and Batgirl relationship. But she becomes very important in the Bat family. That's why I love this show so much, because the Bat family here is so good. It's so well established and so well developed. It's, for me, is the best representation of not only the Batman universe, but the Bat family itself. So then, now we had this whole speech that was done publicly in the streets of Gotham. Gil Mason was doing it. Then we see Batman showing up at the thing, and he, opens his wings, and the people love it to see him. He's on the top of a building. Then we realize that he's actually Batgirl, dressed as Batman in a makeshift suit. And then we have this very cool scene where she has to escape some criminals. There's some guys appear in this speech to try to kill Gil Mason, and he ducks behind the podium to hide from the bullets. Apparently, he already knew that someone was going to try to kill him, so He does that, and then Batgirl shows up to try to interfere, and Robin is also in the scene. So when Robin sees her, he goes after her to grab her, but he doesn't realize at first that he's a woman. So when he gets to her, he pulls her cowl from behind and rips a chunk of the cowl, and her hair uh, gets gets out of the cowl and floats in the air, showing that is a girl. And this is very cool because it also establishes that this is how the uniform of Batgirl will be in the future. She always has her hair floating out of the cowl. So it's a perfect way to craft a scene where Robin discovers that she's a girl, and to also introduce this idea of how her suit will be in the future. Another great example of the storytelling that this show has, a fantastic way to introduce these things. Now talking about Batgirl in other, by the way, just a little detail. Right now, Robin sees the moment in the television that Gil Mason ducks behind the podium to escape from the shootout. So he already knew that those guys were gonna be there. Anyway, going back to what I was going to say, talking about Batgirl in other medias, well, we only had her outside of the comics in the Batman and Robin, right, movie. And I kind of like Alicia Silverstone in there, even though it is a totally different version of the character where she's Alfred's niece. And that's, I kind of hate that because it completely removes the whole dynamic of her being the daughter of this police officer, and he doesn't know who she is, and she has to hide this identity from him. And that is part of the charm of this whole dynamic, right? And then we're supposed to have a movie with Batgirl last year, I don't know, but a couple of years ago it was filmed with, I forgot the name of the actress who was going to play Batgirl, but we were supposed to have J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon, and that was going to be perfect. But because of the whole, mess that the DCEU universe made with this multiverse, realities, and then Flash changed some of the realities. We were supposed to have the Commissioner Gordon from Ben Affleck's Batman into the universe of Michael Keaton's Batman, and he was supposed to be the Batman that was going to train this Batgirl. I think that not only because Warner Bros. Didn't want to pay for taxes and have a movie that would probably not give them so much money back, they canceled the project, which I think is completely bullshit. They should have released this movie, even if it was bad, because every movie deserves to see the light of day, no matter how bad it is. We see bad movies every day in the movies, in the cinema, I mean. So anyway, not only they want to save expenses, but they wanted to not confuse audiences anymore with the whole multiverse bullshit. And I think it was for the best. And then we see that Barbara, she got some information about the crooks that tried to kill Gil Mason in the podium of the speech. And she discovered the identity of one of them. So thinking that Gil Mason is a good guy, she went to his house to give this information to him. But then she found the same man in his house, which immediately confirmed to her that he is going along with this whole criminal organization. He is working with them. So now she realizes that she doesn't have any allies in the police force, or she doesn't know who to trust. Meanwhile, Batman, he disguises himself as his famous alias of Mattis Malone, and he tries to enter a building where he believes some of the gangsters are, and he falls into a trap where the window is is electrified, so he gets electrocuted by it. Meanwhile, we also see Barbara back at her house thinking about the whole idea, what she's going to do now. And she takes the cowl and the cape that got ripped by Robin. And this is the final impetus to give her the idea that she now must become a superhero to, again, unravel this whole situation by herself. We cut back to Mattis Malone, and he gets caught by the gangsters inside the building, and their leader is none other than Two-Face. So we have the appearance of Two-Face in this episode, which is pretty cool. We get a villain, a main villain for the episode, right? And it's funny because Mattis Malone, or Bruce Wayne in disguise, he will try to get into the gang of Two-Face and as a disguise, right? To infiltrate the gang and work with them to discover more information. So Two-Face decides to flip the coin to decide if he's going to accept Mattis Malone into the gang or not. And the coin falls on the bad side. So one of the guys knocks Mattis Malone down with a shotgun, and he gets unconscious. Meanwhile, we cut back to the police district, and Barbara Gordon finally put her full suit of Batgirl with the symbol, with the belt, and this is where we end the episode, with her final shot dressed as Batgirl, and to be continued. And this is it. Shadow of the Bat Part 1. What did you think? I love this episode, and I'm really eager to see the next one. So if you are liking the content of BATGUS, you know what to do. Please don't forget to leave your like in this video and subscribe to the channel for more Batman content and also DC Universe content in the future. All right? See you in the next Bat video, and bye-bye.